the following instructional television.
Explosion starts with fission. So the splitting of the nucleus of the atom is the basic principle of nuclear weapons. These alpha particles do not have the harmful effects of the longer range and stronger gamma rays, which are given off by certain elements such as radium or by the products of nuclear fission. The atoms of uranium and plutonium are among the heaviest. Heavy because the nucleus of each atom contains large numbers of the fundamental particles called protons and neutrons. When a free neutron hits this nucleus, it splits into two parts, releasing more neutrons which may go on to split other nuclei. The resulting fission products become highly radioactive, emitting the long-range and dangerous gamma rays. The split nucleus weighs less than the whole one, and this difference in weight is released in the form of energy, nuclear energy. After fission, harmful gamma radiation. Before fission, innocuous alpha radiation. To build up a nuclear energy release, the fissionable material must be of a certain size, shape, or density. Then one of the neutrons escaping from a split atomic nucleus will, in turn, split another, and a chain reaction is set up. The mass is now releasing nuclear energy, but not quickly enough to cause a nuclear explosion. This condition is called critical. If the mass is now suddenly increased, so that more neutrons are trapped each time an atomic nucleus is split, a multiplying chain reaction is maintained. Now the mass is supercritical, causing a nuclear explosion. Density of the fissionable material can be as important as mass in building up a nuclear explosion. The same sphere can be compressed so that the atoms are closer together and neutrons split more atomic nuclei, making the smaller mass critical. If compressed still more, a multiplying chain reaction sets in, causing the mass to become supercritical in a nuclear explosion. Nuclear weapons make use of both of these principles. A gun-type device can increase the mass of fissionable material to a supercritical state instantaneously. One subcritical mass is propelled forcibly into another by an ordinary powder charge. The increased mass becomes supercritical. A multiplying chain reaction builds up until the nuclear explosion. Obviously, if any mechanical device keeps these two subcritical masses apart, the weapon is nuclear safe. Applications of this fact prevent accidental nuclear explosions in gun-type weapons. Another kind of nuclear weapon is the implosion type. It compresses the fissionable material to greater density to make it supercritical. To do this, the sphere is enclosed by a shell of ordinary explosive designed to direct its explosive force inward. This effect is called implosion. The detonators attached to the explosive are connected to a complex firing device which can fire every detonator simultaneously. When all the explosive is detonated simultaneously, the nuclear material is compressed into a supercritical mass, which results in a nuclear explosion. Implosion-type weapons are nuclear safe because only the specially designed firing device can produce the simultaneous detonation of all the ordinary explosive. A deliberate effect possible only by the precise firing mechanism. Should a single detonator be fired accidentally, whether by malfunction, crash impact, or fire, the explosive would not provide the all-around compression necessary for implosion. Instead, it might push the nuclear material out of the shell, break it into small pieces, or even burn it. This unfissioned material emits only alpha particles because no nuclear explosion has taken place. These alpha particles do not penetrate the skin. The simplest precautions can prevent their intake into the body, and the simplest cleanup measures can remove them. So you see, each type of nuclear weapon has its own safeguards against accidental nuclear explosion. These are the facts.
A city is a place to live, work, and play, but most of all, a city is people.
Welcome to our exhibit. I'm glad to have this opportunity to tell you about the telephone switching center of tomorrow. The electronic central office, which is made possible by the magic of the transistor and other tiny but amazing devices invented by the Bell Telephone Laboratories. Imagine, if you can, an electronic brain operating at millions of a second speeds. I say brain because the new electronic central office will almost think for itself. It will not only carry out instructions you dial into it, it will also remember instructions you provided earlier. These memory features will offer many convenient services I'm sure you'll be delighted with. For one thing, you'll be able to reach frequently called numbers by dialing only 2 digits. All you'll have to do is give the telephone company a list of the numbers you dial most frequently. The electronic brain's memory will do the rest. To see how it works, please watch the screen.
Is it time to phone, Grandma?
Now, let's see. All right. Now, let's say you want to call your mother, who lives in Des Moines. You call her fairly often, so the telephone company has assigned 53 as your special number for making this call. When you dial the 5 and the 3, the electronic central office's brain says, uh-oh, something special, searches its memory for what those 2 digits represent, and dials the area code plus the full number in Des Moines for you. Hello?
Hello, Grandma.
Ever been invited out for an evening and had to turn it down because you're expecting an extra special call? Well, the electronic central office will solve that problem for you, too. When you do go out, it will be a simple matter to have your calls transferred. All you'll have to do is dial a special code, which tells the equipment's brain you want your calls transferred, and then dial the telephone number where you can be reached. Our amazing electronic central office will take it from there. I think it's a wonderful call for you. No, you stay there. Hello?
Diane?
No, this isn't Diane. It's Linda.
Linda? What gives? This is Jim Morton. I was calling Diane Brown.
Oh, yes, she's here. She had her calls transferred to my house. Hi, Jim. And what about those times someone has tried to call you and your line is busy? We've thought of that, too.
Oh, fine, Sarah, that's fine. I'll have the information for you at the meeting next Wednesday.
When you hear the beep tone on your telephone, you know someone else is trying to reach you.
Sarah, will you hold on just a minute? Someone else is trying to reach me.
All you do is flick the switch hook to hold the first call while you
Hello?
take the second.
Oh, hello, dear. I was just talking to Sarah. I see. Okay, dear, but you tell Fred next time he's in town he's to bring Helen, right? Bye, dear.
You flick the button back and go on with your first call.
Hello, Sarah? That was Bert calling.
Easy as pie, isn't it? And here's another feature you're going to find handy. Now look.
Sarah Jane knows a lot more about that than I do. Why don't we get her on the line and find out? Okay, just a minute.
Want someone else on the line? That's easy, too. Flip the switch button, then dial a code number and the number you want. And presto.
Hello, Jane? This is Martha. Listen, I have Sarah on the line, and we want to know what to do about...
As we look to the future, we see many extras for tomorrow's telephone users. One day, you may be able to call home and automatically turn off the oven. Or, from a public telephone a couple of 100 miles away, turn on your home air conditioner and have the house nice and cool when you return from your hot trip. It may even be possible to call and water the lawn during that dry spell when you are many miles away on vacation. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? But it is all possible because of the basic research our scientists and engineers at the Bell Telephone Laboratories are doing to make your service better day by day. From their work has come breakthrough after breakthrough in science, providing the intricate devices that lie at the heart of your telephone service of tomorrow. Through the invention of better things, we are trying very hard to give you the kind of telephone service you want and need. And we think you'll agree, after seeing the many exhibits we have here, there is no end to telephone progress now or in Century 21.
Here, in ultra-modern laboratory buildings, work scientists in and out of uniform. They work with the incredibly complex equations of nuclear physics, which derive from Einstein's famous relationship of mass to energy. These cryptic figures, programmed into lightning-fast computers, are the theoretical base upon which these scientists, together with those of the Atomic Energy Commission, can build nuclear weapon safety. By research, design development, and laboratory test, they ensure weapons not yet built against accidental nuclear explosion. They have been doing this successfully since 1945 in safety conferences with other Defense Department agencies and the Atomic Energy Commission. In 13 years, there have been a few accidents, but not one has resulted in nuclear explosion or radioactive fallout. These are the facts.
All people need food, shelter, and air to breathe. They also need beauty and good design. The man-made environment must serve the needs of its people.
Hello. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm your right hand, you might say. I won't tell you my name, because you'd probably forget it. And if you told me yours, I'd never remember it. You see, I have a memory problem. Now, there's nothing wrong with a memory problem. That is, if you don't have to remember anything. But it so happens that I have a few things to remember every day. For instance, I have to remember to go to the bank before 3 o'clock today. So I've decided to try the greatest memory invention since the development of the mind. Namely, the memory chain. What is the memory chain, you may well ask? Well, if I want to remember to get to the bank before 3, I simply have to try to picture an unusual or ridiculous association of the important elements. In this case, the bank and its closing time combine in a money clock. And who would forget a money clock? Not I. Let's suppose you had to remember a shopping list. And let's suppose the first item on that list was a jar of olives. You could picture those olives one way or another, but not find anything unusual or memorable about them. But if you combine them in an unusual way with the second item on your list, coffee, you would never forget the combination. Perhaps you also have to buy ketchup. The memory chain now links items 2 and 3 on your list. The device helps create another unforgettable combination. A cereal box, however well designed, is a likely candidate to remain on the grocer's shelf. You have to associate it with the previous item on the list to make sure that it gets into your shopping bag. In other words, the key to the memory chain technique is the juxtaposition of elements in a striking way. Just imagine a tempting topping of shopping list item 3 on shopping list item 4. You would never forget it. However mundane or ordinary the single item, the items in combination become unusual, strange, surprising, exciting, funny, ridiculous, or disgusting, and therefore unforgettable. And don't forget, there's more than one way to associate the items. Item 5 on the list is an ordinary bunch of celery. How can we use cereal to help us remember an unremarkable, thoroughly common vegetable like celery? Uh-oh, it's not such common celery after all. Suppose you have to remember a doctor's appointment after shopping. The memory chain method teaches us to connect your last item with the appointment. If you have to go to the doctor after shopping, you might try to visualize a bunch of celery in your doctor's office. That way, just looking at your groceries will remind you of your appointment. May be carrying things a bit too far to envision an upstanding member of the AMA diagnosing a stalk of celery. But extremism in the pursuit of memory is no vice. suppose you have to remember to pick up your bicycle at the repair shop. Our versatile doctor can help us remember this important chore by performing the bike's annual checkup. This doctor is clearly no mechanic, and that is why you will unforgettably associate your doctor's appointment with your bicycle, and you will remember to pick up your bike. All of these unusual but memorable associations of the common items will just about wrap up your memory problem. It's time for me to go now. I just remembered an urgent appointment. I guess I don't need this string anymore. So long. One more thing. There was something else about this string. Oh well, I forgot what I wanted to say.
Nuclear safety is everybody's business. Although Air Force flies the test missions, scientists and technicians from the Atomic Energy Commission and other services man the test range and evaluate the findings of the elaborate instrumentation. Drop tests measure impact characteristics of various weapon types. They are made without nuclear components, so that this precious material is not wasted. They supplement the detonation tests that have been made with the complete nuclear weapons. Impact or shock does not cause nuclear explosion or radioactive fallout. What has exploded is the ordinary explosive, which is an essential part of nuclear weapons. The ordinary explosive in a nuclear weapon can be a hazard, exactly as in a conventional bomb. Depending upon the amount and location of the explosive and the speed and height of the drop, we may experience a variety of ordinary explosions. Large ones, small ones, or none at all from impact of the bomb. Beside the hazard of impact, frequent tests are run on the hazard of fire. To learn what temperatures and pressures would be created inside a weapon by an aircraft fire, various types of bombs are subjected to a flame bath of burning fuel. Because fire would also destroy the precious nuclear material, it is replaced by instruments. Their readings are compared with known characteristics of the fissionable material to assure that temperatures higher than any aircraft fire will not set off a nuclear explosion. The characteristic white flame indicates that the ordinary explosive is burning in the weapon. Sometimes the explosive detonates because of close confinement and intense heat. The effects of such explosions are measured and compared with those in an actual nuclear weapon. Fire and ordinary explosives do not create the conditions necessary for nuclear explosion. These are the facts. And on the vast desert ranges of the Atomic Energy Commission, the facts are verified by safety testing live prototypes of all new weapons before they go into production for our stockpile. The tests are costly in money and manpower, even more costly in the fissionable materials on which our nuclear strength depends. But they do provide insurance against nuclear accidents, which make them a bargain at any price. Some take place deep in the earth. Fantastically complex instruments replace the five senses. They record what happens when some of the explosive that surrounds the nuclear material of a new weapon is deliberately detonated. They record only an ordinary explosive blast. A random detonation has not created the implosion which would compress the nuclear material to a supercritical mass. There was no nuclear explosion, no radioactive fallout. Each new design must be proved nuclear safe, able to withstand accident, fire, or random explosive. Other tests with nuclear weapons are made above ground. These are also designed to test the nuclear safety of new weapon types by intentionally detonating the explosive which surrounds the fissionable material. Sometimes these tests also provide data on the side effects to be expected if the fissionable material is broken up by the explosion. Air samplers and test pads are used to gauge the area, intensity, and duration of these side effects. In this way, they learn not only what does not happen when a charge is deliberately fired, but what does. The explosive does break up the nuclear material and scatter parts of it over a small area. This fissionable material is mildly radioactive. If the explosion or fire should suspend any of this material in dust or smoke, it should not be inhaled or otherwise taken into the body in quantity. That is why the trained monitoring and cleanup crews may wear respirators until air samplers or alpha counters have determined that no injurious concentration exists. The alpha particles emitted do not penetrate skin or clothing, so this material is harmless when on the ground. Only simple cleanup measures are necessary, plus an effort to find and save the valuable material. The findings from all tests set up to measure possible radiological hazard are no external radioactive hazard from material on the ground, slight radioactive hazard from prolonged inhalation of material suspended in a small area near the accident, but none from the short exposures necessary for firefighting, rescue, or cleanup of the small area involved. These are the facts.
Diddle-dum-dum, diddle-dum-dum, diddle-dum-dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and covered.
He did what we all must learn to do. You
and you
and you
and you, duck and cover.
Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did, friends, because every one of us must remember to do the same thing. That's what this film is all about. Duck and cover.
This is an official civil defense film produced in cooperation with the Federal Civil Defense Administration and in consultation with the Safety Commission of the National Education Association.
Produced by Archer Productions, Incorporated. Hey, Bert, come on out and meet all these nice people, please. Oh, all right. We really can't blame you. You see, Bert is a very, very careful fellow. When there's danger, this is the way he keeps from being hurt. Sometimes it even saves his life. That's why these children are practicing to duck and cover just as you do in your school. We all know the atomic bomb is very dangerous. Since it may be used against us, we must get ready for it, just as we are ready for many other dangers that are around us all the time. Fire is a danger. It can burn whole buildings if someone is careless. But we are ready for fire. We have a fine fire department to put out the fire. And you have fire drills in your school so you know what to do. Automobiles can be dangerous, too. They sometimes cause bad accidents. But we are ready. We have safety rules that car drivers and people who are walking must obey. Now, we must be ready for a new danger, the atomic bomb. First, you have to know what happens when an atomic bomb explodes. You will know when it comes. We hope it never comes, but we must get ready. It looks something like this. There is a bright flash, brighter than the sun, brighter than anything you've ever seen. If you are not ready and did not know what to do, it could hurt you in different ways. It could knock you down hard or throw you against a tree or a wall. It is such a big explosion, it can smash in buildings and knock signboards over and break windows all over town. But if you duck and cover like Bert, you will be much safer. You know how bad sunburn can feel. The atomic bomb flash could burn you worse than a terrible sunburn, especially where you're not covered. Now, you and I don't have shells to crawl into like Bert the Turtle, so we have to cover up in our own way. First, you duck, and then you cover. And very tightly, you cover the back of your neck and your face. Duck and cover underneath a table or desk or anything else close by. In Betty's school, they are talking about the atomic bomb, too. Betty is asking her teacher, how can we tell when the atomic bomb may explode? And her teacher is explaining that there are two kinds of attack, with warning and without any warning. We think that most of the time we will be warned before the bomb explodes, so there will be time for us to get into our homes, schools, or some other safe place. Our civil defense workers and our men in uniform will do everything they can to warn us before enemy planes can bring a bomb near us. You may be in your schoolyard playing when the signal comes. That signal means to stop whatever you are doing and get to the nearest safe place fast. Always remember, a flash of an atomic bomb can come at any time, no matter where you may be. You might be out playing at home when the warning comes. Then be sure to get into the house fast, where your parents have fixed a safe place for you to go. If you are not close to home when you hear the warning, go to the nearest safe cover. Know where you are to go, or ask an older person to help you. You know the places marked with the S sign? They're safe places to go when you hear the alarm. If there is a warning, you will hear it before the bomb explodes. But sometimes, and this is very, very important, sometimes the bomb might explode without any warning. Then the first thing we would know about it would be the flash. And that means duck and cover fast, wherever you are. There's no time to look around or wait. Be like Bert. When there is a flash, duck and cover, and do it fast.
For the 5th time in continental testing, the symbol of nuclear power rose over the mountains of Nevada. This series encompassed so many objectives that preparations began while there was still snow on the mountains surrounding the Nevada test site and in the valley north of Yucca Flat. In contrast, the series came to an end in May amid the bloom of desert flowers. 14 times during that period, the blinking blue light on the pole above Camp Mercury indicated the shot was on for the following day. Although the 7 programs conducted by the Military Effects Group included some 50 different projects and participated in all 14 shots, the most important military effects studies were concerned primarily with 3 shots: an underground, a tower, and a high-altitude burst. The S, or underground shot, was scheduled to extend our knowledge of the cratering efficiency of nuclear weapons. In 1951, the first underground nuclear shot was fired during the Jangle series. Yield 1.2 kilotons. Depth of charge 17 feet. The apparent crater had a radius of 130 feet and a depth of 53 feet. The true crater was never measured.
If you ate this lunch, you know you'd be getting energy from the food. But you'd also be getting a different kind of energy. Something on that table is sending out invisible energy detected by the probe. The radiation seems to be coming mostly from the bowl with the fruit in it. Is it coming from the fruit or the bowl? The energy is coming from the bowl. Put it to one side for the moment. Even with the bowl gone, you're still exposed to this unseen radiation. Every day of your life, no matter who you are, where you go, or what you do, you're bombarded by it. It's a part of the natural environment and has been since the beginning of time. You're going to investigate this invisible, everyday radioactivity. These three discs are the ABCs of the radioactivity in your daily life. The different radiations they give off are known by the first three letters of the Greek alphabet. Alpha is the radiation coming from polonium-210, a radioactive element discovered by Madame Curie in 1898. Atoms of the polonium-210 are spontaneously giving off alpha particles, which are entering the probe and triggering pulses of electricity inside. The current is amplified by the instrument. You can see the flow of current on the meter calibrated in counts per minute. Each burst of current makes a clicking sound come from the speaker. You've probably heard the instrument called a Geiger counter. Put a piece of paper between the polonium-210 and the probe. The current drops, showing the paper has blocked the alpha particles. Nuclear researchers have found that alpha radiation is made up of subatomic particles that can be stopped by such things as a sheet of paper, your skin, and other relatively thin materials, such as air. Beta, the second Greek letter, is the name given to the radiation coming from strontium-90, an element chemically similar to calcium. The betas are also picked up by the probe and register a little less than 200 counts per minute on the meter. The paper that stopped the alphas has little effect on the betas. They go right through it. Research has shown that betas are also subatomic particles, but have more penetrating power than alphas. Now put a 3/4 inch thick piece of wood in the path of the betas. The wood absorbs most of the betas. Beta particles are stopped by such barriers as wood, thin sheets of metal, walls, and many other materials. And finally, the third kind of radiation. You may have heard of cobalt-60 in connection with cancer treatment. The atoms of cobalt-60 give off beta particles and a different kind of radiation called gamma, the third letter of the Greek alphabet. The combination of betas and gammas results in 300 to 400 counts per minute. Bring in the same paper. The radiation from cobalt-60 goes right through it. Next, the wood. The cobalt-60 betas are absorbed by it, just as the betas from strontium-90 were. Now you're measuring only gamma radiation. This is a 1-inch thick barrier of lead sheets. Most of the gammas are absorbed by the lead, as the meter shows. Almost all of the radioactivity in your everyday life is made up of these 3 kinds of radiation. Alpha particles, which are stopped rather easily, beta particles, which have moderate penetrating power, and the highly penetrating gammas. Which kind of radiation, alpha, beta, or gamma, is coming from the bowl? The sound tells you that the bowl is highly radioactive. Alphas, betas, or gammas, or a combination of them, are entering the probe at the rate of about 425 counts per minute. To find out what makes the bowl so hot, fasten the probe to the case. Next, put it on a block so that the probe is held at a fixed distance above the bowl. The alphas will be stopped by the paper. Because the count per minute drops slightly, you can suspect that some alphas are shooting out from the bowl. Now for the wooden beta barrier. Obviously, most of the bowl radiation is made up of betas. The remaining radiation is probably gamma. The lead blocks almost all the rest of the radiation, indicating it is gamma rays. What material in the bowl is giving off all this radiation? The alphas could be coming from polonium-210 in the bowl. Strontium-90 could be the source of the betas. Both betas and gammas could be supplied by cobalt-60. But other radioactive sources also give off alphas, betas, and gammas. Uranium emits all 3. So does radium. Finding out what kind of radiation is coming from the bowl or any other radioactive source is only the first step in identifying the actual source of radiation. To pinpoint the specific radioactive material in the bowl, you'll need an instrument known as a scintillation counter, connected to a multi-channel analyzer. It may look complicated, but the principle on which it works is easy to understand. Its probe detects only gamma radiation. At the bottom is a thin metal shield, which gammas can easily penetrate. Inside is a crystal that reacts in a peculiar way when it absorbs gammas. This is not the crystal. It's a circle of tissue paper that represents the crystal. The projector will be the source of gammas. The light represents the gamma radiation. When gammas are absorbed by the crystal, some of the energy is converted to light. Not a steady beam like this, but short flashes of light, more like this. Scintillation means flashing in Latin.
We have learned a great deal about the atmosphere we live in. The camera, speeding up the movement in the sky above, reveals restless forces. Instruments tell us of jet streams of air, fierce winds circling the globe far above the clouds we see. We live at the bottom of a turbulent ocean of air, scores of miles deep. And what we see from below is just a small part of an atmosphere which is powered and driven into complex movement by the energies of the nearest star, 93 million miles away, the sun. Streaming out from the hub of the solar system
are many different kinds of energies. Sometimes, when there are solar storms, its own gaseous substance is ejected into space as clouds of particles. And always, steadily, the sun pours forth light, heat, ultraviolet rays, radio waves. Almost all these forms of energy affect the atmosphere of our distant Earth. When clouds of solar particles stream toward our planet, some of them are caught in its magnetic field and form enormous nebulous envelopes, detectable only by instrument probes far out in space. Sometimes these particles are pulled in by the Earth's magnetic poles and meet with the tenuous topmost layers of the atmosphere, making it glow with the flickering light of the auroras we occasionally see 100 miles above us. Below the auroras, the Earth's thickening atmosphere becomes a shield under which human life can flourish. In this cushion of air, every day hundreds of tons of meteoric debris burn up by friction before reaching the Earth. And if we dropped from this altitude in a long arc down toward the Earth and had special powers of sight, we could see many different layers within our atmosphere protecting us from the harmful electromagnetic radiation of the sun. Layers that filter out the longer ultraviolet rays, that filter out X-rays, a layer of ozone, without which enough shortwave ultraviolet radiation would reach the Earth to destroy almost all life. Gradually, as we near the Earth's surface, the light from the sun is scattered by denser air and fine dust, turning blue the sky above us. Of all the energy the atmosphere receives from the sun on a clear day, about 2/3 gets through to shine on the lands and seas of Earth. The Earth, in turn, heats the air, and in heating it, stirs it into the tiny eddies and global patterns we call the weather. Digesting millions of bits of weather information from all over the hemisphere, Point Barrow, Halifax, Baghdad, Manila, the computer calculates a prediction. The mathematical prediction of weather is now routine. The contours printed out by the computer are translated into the familiar wavy lines and bulges we see in the daily weather map. As men have come to a deeper understanding of the forces of the atmosphere, it was inevitable that some should dream of changing it. Snow and ice research in the Antarctic, air pollution work in England, arid climate research in Africa. The atmosphere is being studied all over the world, and we are gradually learning the true nature of the forces which surround us. As men continue to explore space, they may find no treasure anywhere like their own earthly environment, their atmosphere, their earthly weather, or a more beautiful, complex, and fascinating interplay of natural phenomena.
clicking sounds, sounds that reveal the presence of radioactive rays. The instrument, a Geiger counter, is converting radioactivity into sounds we can hear. This radioactivity is coming from a small piece of radioactive material inside this plastic cylinder. The small amount of radioactivity coming from the cylinder is harmless. The luminous dial on this watch also gives off radioactive rays, which we hear on the Geiger counter. Even when there's no radioactive material near, the Geiger counter continues to click. This is caused by cosmic radiation that continually bombards us from outer space. But we don't get enough cosmic radiation to harm us. Today, atomic scientists produce radioactivity in large amounts. Radioactivity and radioactive materials have many peacetime uses. But we know, too, that they can be used harmfully, as in atomic bombs. The chance of your being hurt by an atomic bomb is slight. But since there is a chance, you must know how to protect yourself. To protect yourself, you have to know what the bomb does. Besides blast, there's radioactivity and heat. Can we protect ourselves from these? These children are protected. Concrete walls help stop radioactivity. Any wall stops the heat. The heat scorches the house, but does not harm the children. Any solid gives some protection. The thicker it is, the better. We have the national defenses to intercept an enemy, and we all form a team to help each other through emergencies. You are on that team. So is your family, each member of it. And in your community, every doctor, fireman, every policeman and nurse, every lineman and operator, every civil defense worker. In fact, every community employee is ready to help you if you need it. So your community is prepared for emergencies and ready to help other communities.
Scientists have discovered radioactive elements in many more everyday objects besides uranium bowls, radium dial clocks, and thorium mantles. They found, for example, that you're exposed to a very small amount of low-energy radiation every time you watch television. Not very much, but a measurable amount. The radiation you receive when you watch 1 hour of color television each day in the year can be considered a sort of unit of everyday exposure. 365 hours of watching color television will then have a value of 1. If you live in a wooden house, you receive about 17 TV units of radiation each year from natural radioactive materials in the wood. Bricks are even more radioactive. In a brick house, you get approximately 36 TV units in a year. Everywhere you go, you're bombarded by what is called cosmic radiation. Scientists have identified it as radiation coming from the sun and outer space. Some of it can penetrate the atmosphere, buildings, and people. At this very moment, some of it is going right through you. If you live at sea level, the cosmic radiation you get in a year is about 20 times what you receive from watching 365 hours of color television. Every 200 feet above sea level increases your cosmic radiation by about 1 unit each year. A 10-day vacation high in the mountains exposes you to cosmic radiation of 1 more unit. The ground you walk on is also a source of radiation, adding 7 1/2 TV units a year. Minute amounts of these radioactive elements are taken up and stored by plants. Cereals, Brazil nuts, and tea are some of the plant products that are relatively high in these elements. Animals eat the plants and concentrate the radioactive elements in various parts of their bodies. You're exposed to some of this plant and animal radioactivity in the food you eat, and more in the water you drink. On the average, food and water add 12 1/2 TV units of radiation a year, mostly beta and gamma.
We decided that we would try to build a city of about 100,000 people. And that we felt that was a pretty good size to try, since it was the first one that we were going to do. And we decided that we didn't want it to be a very dense city, you know, not a lot of people living on a little bit of land with high buildings and the like. It's not to say there's anything wrong with that. It's just different. But that it would be a relatively loose and open city. It would have its apartments, but there would be trees around them and so on. And that was a kind of a city, a kind of a style that we thought people were looking for right now. The difference, I suppose, between what we did and the way most other either city building or rebuilding efforts is that we started from the big question as to what's a city for. Basically, we concluded that the city was to help people live more fulfilling, exciting, happy lives. And to that extent, you can't tell whether it's a good city just by looking at it. You have to really get in there and talk to the people.
I think it has to have a lot of open spaces and parks and nice places where you can stay, be.
Transportation, things like that.
Yeah, and slum prevention. Clean and open.
Places for recreation, nightclubs, you know. Stuff to keep the kids busy, keep them off the street.
The safety that was designed in during research, built in during development, proved in the laboratory and on the range, has withstood the ultimate tragic test. These are the facts. They prove that you, the American people, can stay both safe and strong. Safe because the weapons your Air Force must carry have been tested nuclear safe. The possibility of an accidental nuclear explosion is so small as to be practically non-existent. Strong because an Air Force, nuclear-armed and combat-ready, stands guard against surprise attack. Under this shelter, you and your family may live in peace, free from the fear of nuclear accidents. These are the facts.
was a good boy.
Good evening.
Oh, hello.
They said he liked to be helpful.
I won't come in.
Oh, you're all wet.
I'm all wet.
They said he wouldn't hurt a fly.
Yes, it was a pity about that. No, they never did find the bride again. Such a nice girl, too.
He loved games. He loved the outdoors. And he loved
Have a nice hot cup of tea.
his mother.
You know, I can honestly say that I know everyone who goes past here intimately, you might say.
We want to know what happened to Doris.
Yes, I'm sure you do. Her and the others.
He's cheeky. He's an Egyptologist. He is the mummy's boy. The mummy's boy.
Hello.
is coming out to play.
Oh, but I need everything.